The series finale of Yellowstone is going Game of Thrones and disappointing everybody as far as it possibly can, as wide as it possibly can, because of course it went woke. I think Game of Thrones more or less just went off the deep end.
And are you happy with how things ended? Yes. She didn't say yes. You didn't say yes.
Best season ever!
But Yellowstone went as many could have expected. It went woke because in the season finale of the final show, it depicted Kevin Cosner, whatever his name is in the show, I never watched it, depicted him giving all of his land over to a Native American tribe in order to make some kind of land acknowledgement or something like that. Of course, I don't suppose that the ancestors of the Native American tribe that was killed by the Native American tribe that he ceded the land to is actually going to come back, and there'll be another series spinoff about that. But that would be actually kind of interesting, because we could have this infinite regress of Native Americans and people fighting and killing and raping each other until we finally get to the fact that it belongs to God anyway. All that to say that this should have been something that we saw coming a mile away, because maybe you'll remember this clip from the show that totally reeks of wokeism.
I saw this video on Pornhub, and this is exactly how it starts.
Misogyny, how refreshing. Can you tell me the definition of power, Trent? I can remove you from this class and fail you, or I can send you before the dean for violating the student code of conduct. These are all things that can alter the course of your life. That's power. You ever feel like making someone do what you want, whether they want to or not? European mentality, stemming from the oppressive political and religious structures of the Renaissance. Kings and priests with absolute power ruling masses who have none. And it's the mentality our society struggles with today. What you know of history is a dominant culture's justification for its actions, because we're all the descendants of the subjugated.
Now, what's fascinating about what you saw right there is that it is basically pulled directly from the playbook of Saul Linsky. And Saul Linsky is the guy who wrote the book Rules for Radicals. And of course, he is a discipler of Hillary Clinton, among other people. But that radical man developed a couple of different tactics for leftists in order to try to create revolution, let's just say. One of them is fear. So put fear upon people. Your enemy doesn't know what you don't know, so use that against them. So don't use truth to try to uphold virtue in society, but use fear. And then use ridicule, because one of the most powerful tools, he said, that people have is ridicule. So if you can isolate somebody, make them fearful, put a little fear in them, maybe just say, hey, like, if you don't do what we want, we'll try to cancel your business, something like that. And then you ridicule them endlessly so that you remove all chances of them actually fighting back. Then you can actually grab power for yourself, and then you can use that against your opponent. Now, it's obviously a very deceptive and demonic ideology to operate this kind of way, rather than to operate in good faith, to enter into dialogue and discourse over ideas. See, the free marketplace of ideas is totally lost on leftist radicals like this teacher that we just saw. But I'm really thankful for clips like this, because one, it teaches me not to waste my time with shows like Yellowstone that will ultimately disappoint, but also it's an important lesson for us to remember. Much like what I talked about at the beginning of the show, it's important for us to understand our opponent, because the devil is in the details at the end of the day. And Aaron Renn has this beautiful concept that I think is important for us to understand if we're to understand how to engage in a culture where woke activists like this want to fear, ridicule, and just completely make everything about power. So Aaron Renn talks about the positive world, the neutral world, and the negative world. And essentially, the positive world is a world in which Christian ideas are celebrated. The neutral world is a world in which Christian ideas and then other moral virtues are just kind of seen as neutral, kind of you do you. And then the third kind of world that we live in now is the negative world, and that's where it is a liability. You lose social credibility. You are attacked for your Christian virtues. So now it's not you do you, it's we're going to attack you for you doing you if we don't agree with you. And so one of the things that I tried to show at the beginning of the show today that I think is important for us to understand here is that we lived in the neutral world from about the 70s, late 60s, into probably about 2014, according to Aaron Renn. Whether that timing is correct or not, I don't know. But I do largely agree that we lived culturally with the kind of zeitgeist of a neutral world, but we turned into the negative world. And so one of the things that I think is important for us to understand is that the neutral world doesn't work because it always turns into the negative world, because the neutral world becomes a space for a small vocal minority to do the kind of things we saw in that clip, to try to coerce people out of fear, ridicule, and a desire for power. So this vocal minority will use the space of the neutral world to let their voice be heard above all others, and then they will use force, they will use extortion, blackmail, and all sorts of other things in order to create the negative world. So my point here is that the neutral world always turns into the negative world, which is why Christians have to understand that our goal is not neutral world. Our goal is not to just live in peace and harmony with people who are diametrically opposed to our belief system. But this is where the church has been for far too long. This is where the seeker-sensitive movement still is today, not recognizing that we're far gone into the negative world. See, they think that if they just can convince people that they're loving enough, that then people will come to church. And in some ways they've been successful there, because people do come to church, but they only come because they've provided a seeker-sensitive experience. They've provided concert-style worship. Very often, I won't say this is entirely the case, but very often what they have is a comfortable religion rather than the truth of Christianity in the kind of negative world that we live in. But because the neutral world always turns into the negative world, our desire should be to create a good world, a world of moral virtue, a world where the right things are celebrated. And that's why I would turn this around and just say to all Christians out there that it is incumbent upon us to shape the world in a way that we feel like is best for everybody involved, even if they don't realize it. Regardless of the cries to mind your own business and you leave us alone and we'll leave you alone, which we know is not true. Regardless of any of that, we know that it is in the best interest of the neighbor that we love and care about to create a positive world where Christian virtues are celebrated and not vice and not the dereliction of virtue. So this is what we should strive for, which means that we need to use whatever influence, whatever power we have to get behind those who are standing for truth. You need to do things like become a member of Indie Thinker.
It's like people only do things because they get paid.
We need to take seriously the responsibility of standing for truth, because there are repercussions for this world and for future generations, for our kids, if we don't. And plus, this kind of wokeism just absolutely destroys everything that's good and beautiful on TV and in movies. So come on, if you care about that at least, maybe we can get you to care enough about Netflix and chill to actually fight for something worth fighting for today.
So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely want to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.